Imagine enjoying a succulent steak without a single animal being harmed. Seems too good to be true, right? But welcome to the fascinating world of cultured meat, where this seemingly impossible feat is becoming a reality. So, what exactly is cultured meat? In simple terms, it's meat grown in a lab from animal cells. No animals are harmed, and no pastures are needed. I know it sounds like something out of a science fiction movie, but it's science fact. Here's how it works. Scientists start with a small sample of animal cells. These could come from a feather, a swab of skin, or even a drop of blood. Then these cells are placed in a nutrient-rich culture medium that mimics the conditions inside an animal's body. In this environment, the cells grow and multiply, eventually forming muscle tissue. This muscle tissue is what we know as meat. But don't let the laboratory setting fool you. Cultured meat isn't some weird synthetic substance. It's real bona fide meat. In fact, under a microscope, it's virtually indistinguishable from the meat you'd get from an animal. And while it's still in the early stages of development, the taste tests have been promising. Now, the process isn't exactly fast. It can take several weeks for the cells to grow into a substantial amount of meat. But considering that it takes several years to raise a cow for slaughter, it's a significant time savings. And let's not forget the benefits to the environment. Traditional meat production is a major source of greenhouse gases and a leading cause of deforestation. But with cultured meat, we could drastically reduce these impacts, all while satisfying our craving for a juicy burger or a tender piece of chicken. So we've learned that we can create meat in labs, but the question is, whose meat can we create? Opening. If we can create meat from any living being's cells, what stops us from creating Cristiano Ronaldo's steak or even Marilyn Monroe's burger? Imagine a world where you could savor the essence of your favorite celebrity, not through their music or movies, but through a mouth-watering piece of steak. Sound strange? Welcome to the potential future of cultured meat. With just a few cells, scientists can now grow meat in labs, a concept that's been around for some time. This technology could potentially extend to anyone with a DNA sample. Yes, anyone. Theoretically, even celebrities like Cristiano Ronaldo or Marilyn Monroe could be on the menu. But before you get too excited about the prospect of a Ronaldo ribeye or a Monroe meatloaf, there are some major ethical and legal hurdles to consider. First and foremost, who owns the rights to a person's DNA? If someone decided to grow and sell celebrity meat, would they need the celebrity's consent? And what about the deceased? Could we legally grow and consume the meat of historical figures or loved ones who've passed on? These questions raise a host of legal issues about privacy, consent, and intellectual property rights. And that's not even touching on the potential black market for unauthorized celebrity meat. Imagine the rabid football fans willing to pay top dollar for a slice of their favorite player. It's a wild, wild world we're venturing into, but it's not all about the famous and the departed. What about the people we know and love? If we could grow meat from their cells, would we? Could we? Should we? It's a strange and surreal thought, to say the least. Though these questions may seem far-fetched, they're not entirely out of the realm of possibility. As the technology behind cultured meat continues to advance, we may find ourselves grappling with these ethical and legal dilemmas sooner than we think. Closing. The thought of consuming celebrity meat might be bizarre for some, but what about meat from people we know or loved? Ever thought of what it would be like to take a bite of history literally? Just imagine savoring a steak that's been crafted from the DNA of Albert Einstein, or relishing a burger made from the genetic material of a long-gone ancestor. It may sound like a plot straight out of a science fiction novel, but with the advent of cultured meat, it's a concept that's not entirely out of reach. You see, the process of creating cultured meat only requires a single sample of animal cells. In theory, if we can get our hands on preserved DNA samples from historical figures or late family members, we could potentially grow their meat in a lab. Imagine having a family barbecue where the main course is your great-great-grandfather, or a dinner party serving the Einstein burger. But as intriguing as this possibility is, it does open up a Pandora's box of ethical questions. Is it right to consume the flesh of someone who has passed away, even if it's grown in a lab and doesn't harm anyone? How would this affect our perception of mortality and our respect for the dead? It's a topic that's sure to stir up a lot of heated debate. And let's not forget about the legal implications. Who would own the rights to these DNA samples? Would it be the family? Or perhaps the estate of the deceased? And what about the potential for DNA theft? It's a murky legal territory that we'd need to navigate carefully. The concept of cultured meat has already pushed the boundaries of what we consider to be food. But the idea of consuming meat grown from the DNA of deceased individuals, whether they be family members or historical figures, takes it to a whole new level. It's a fascinating, if somewhat unsettling, glimpse into what our future meals might look like. Eating meat from our ancestors or historical figures might seem strange, but what about our pets' meat? As we move on, we'll delve into this equally controversial topic. Stay tuned. Would you ever consider eating your pet's meat if it didn't harm them? A peculiar question, isn't it? But with the advent of cultured meat technology, it's one we might have to grapple with sooner than we think. Imagine for a moment a world where you could taste the succulence of a steak, the tenderness of a chicken breast, or the richness of a lamb chop, all derived not from a farm but from your pet dog, cat, or even your goldfish. And what's even more astounding is that this culinary experience would not require a single hair on their head to be harmed. This concept may seem bizarre, if not downright unsettling, to many. Pets are often considered part of the family, cherished companions that we love and care for. The notion of dining on their meat, even if it's lab-grown and doesn't cause them any harm, might be too much for some to stomach. Yet, cultured meat technology poses this exact possibility. By taking a small sample of cells, scientists can grow meat in a lab that is genetically identical to that of the donor animal. So, in theory, you could have a plate of your pet's meat without causing them any discomfort or harm. Of course, the ethical implications of this concept are complex. Is it right to consume the meat of a creature you care for deeply, even if it's harmlessly produced? Can we separate the act of eating from the emotional connections we have with our pets? And would it change our relationships with our pets if we knew we could potentially eat their meat? These are difficult questions without easy answers, but they're questions that highlight the fascinating and sometimes unsettling possibilities that arise when technology and food production collide. Cultured meat technology has the potential to revolutionize our food systems, offering sustainable and ethical alternatives to traditional livestock farming. But as we navigate this new frontier, we must also grapple with the ethical and emotional complexities it presents. While the idea of pet meat might be off-putting to many, it's an interesting thought experiment to consider. We've explored some bizarre meaty possibilities today, so where does this leave us? Let's take a moment to marinate on what we've learned. Cultured meat, grown in labs from the DNA of living beings, has a world of potential. It's a technology that could change the way we eat, from bringing extinct species back to our dinner tables, to allowing us to taste the essence of our favorite celebrities. Imagine the novelty of eating mammoth meatballs at your next dinner party, or experiencing a unique connection with your football idol through a bite of their cultured steak. But this brave new world of edible possibilities also brings with it a buffet of ethical and legal quandaries. If we can produce a person's meat, who owns the rights to it? Could we see a black market emerge for unauthorized celebrity steaks or Einstein burgers? And what of our beloved pets? While cultured pet meat could provide a sustainable protein source, the thought of eating our furry companions, even if they're not harmed in the process, may leave a sour taste in many mouths. These are questions we'll need to chew over as we move forward. We're pushing the boundaries of culinary science in ways that were once the stuff of science fiction. But with great power comes great responsibility. We need to consider the implications of our actions, not just the tantalizing potential. The future of cultured meat is exciting and fraught with uncertainty. But one thing is clear. As our technology advances, so too must our ethical considerations. We're not just creating new foods, we're creating new realities. And in these realities, we must always strive to balance innovation with respect for life and individuality. As we push the boundaries of what's possible with cultured meat, we must remember to ask not just if we can, but if we should. So, next time you sit down to dinner, spare a thought for the future of our food. It might be meatier than you think.